Okay, we're going to be taping for Fairfield Public Access Television, so we can put this on the air. I'm Susan Kessel, and Wendell Mohr is our artist today for the Fairfield Art Association exhibit, which is here at Democratic Design, which is a wonderful place to show the artwork. And Wendell, I've known for at least 30 years.
30 years now.
That's a scary thought. And I've taken watercolor workshops from you and silkscreen workshops at the Art Association and all around Iowa. And I know that recently you won some fantastic award, national award for watercolor.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yep.
So we're delighted to have you here, and I'm going to just let you talk.
Okay, Susan, thank you very much. I'm so pleased to be here in such a nice facility to show off my collection of paintings and silkscreen prints. And in a few minutes, maybe we can circulate through the gallery, and I can talk a bit about some of these things. There are 13 watercolors, original watercolors, and they are the large pieces. There are 13 smaller things, and those are silkscreen prints. Some people call them serigraphs, but the process is the same. A serigraph normally designates that the artist has done the design and the printing too. Now, when they refer to a print as a silkscreen print, that means the artist has designed it and someone else did the printing. A technical person would have done the printing. For example, Andy Warhol's prints are called silkscreens because he did the design, but he had a screen printing specialist do the printing. The printing part, of course, is the drudgery part. It can be rather messy, and it's labor intensive, and it's not a lot of fun. The design part is the fun part. And I know a lot of you are artists, maybe all of you. So we can talk a little bit about this exhibit. If you want to walk around, there are some people going to join us here. The watercolors, the watercolors are all, they're all contrived. They're all made up. They're all studio paintings. They are all imaginative scenes, or scenes that maybe I have seen, and basically they've just evolved. I rarely use any reference material. I try to make it up, like a fiction writer would create it. And that's the fun part, I think, of artwork, is the creative part. The part that we create and make something happen.
Now, I was going to say that you used to be a commercial artist.
I did, yes.
So that would be a lot different than the art part of the drawing, right? The technical.
That's true. That's true.
You were in Des Moines, and you actually were a commercial artist.
Commercial artist, yes. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to be an illustrator. And I'm not sure if these pictures are paintings or they are illustrations. Don't know. I can't define for you what is a painting and what is an illustration. Now, Norman Rockwell, of course, never considered himself a painter. And of course, the critics always came down pretty hard on him, because most everybody enjoyed Norman Rockwell's work, and he simply called himself an illustrator. So I guess all paintings in a way are illustrations, but I'm not sure all illustrations are paintings. Anyway, that's for someone else to decide, I guess. Somebody said, well, you're the artist. I said, well, I'm a person that does artwork, and that's for someone else to decide whether I'm an artist or not. Anyway, I enjoy my work, and those of you that do artwork, I know you enjoy it too. What would be reasonable? Can we walk around?
Sure.
First, let's have some questions.
When
Question.
did you change from commercial, art to what you do now?
About 30 years ago.
Okay.
But I always painted on my spare time. And I really enjoyed that because a painter or a writer or a composer or any of the arts really has full control. In the commercial art, of course, you had many people to satisfy. You had the client, of course, that signs the checks, and the boss that signs the payroll. So it's really, as an artist or a painter, you have all of the control, I think. So that's kind of nice to have that.
Now, 30 years ago, that's when he moved to Bentonsport from Des Moines.
Yes.
That was really taking a chance.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to make a living.
Very difficult. In fact, I'm just amazed now that the kids are grown and gone, that I really was able to do it. Pretty Spartan living, relatively primitive. I live in an old schoolhouse, 2-story. It's over 100 years old, 132 years old, I guess. 2-story, it's brick. And it's just down the road at Bentonsport.
It's a wonderful place to visit.
Yeah.
The bottom floor is his studio.
Yep. The top floor, which used to be the high school, is an apartment that we converted. And you're all welcome.
Is that right in the town area, or is that just north?
It's in the town of...
Just north? Or, yeah.
It's in Vernon, actually.
Oh, in
Bentonsport is on one side of the river, and Vernon is on the other side, and there's an old iron footbridge that connects them. And well, it's a neat little community. There's some other artists in the area, potters. Chris Bennett is there, the sculptor. And
Is Jim Oakes still there?
Jim Oakes sold his house about 6 months ago and has moved back to Iowa City.
Okay. He's another wonderful artist.
He is a great painter and a great printmaker. And if you have a chance to have him here sometime, I'm sure it would be a real plus for you. Summertime is good to come there because, well, there's heat, but not a lot. Pretty Spartan.
Now, Wendell, I see out and about at a lot of art fairs that I used to attend.
Yep.
Do you still do a lot of those?
Well, only a few. I'm sort of selective now. There's plenty of art fairs to go to, and I always encourage the beginning artists to sign on to some of these art fairs because it's a good learning process. I do maybe 5 or 6 a year, and these
What are those? Which ones?
well, let's see. I do College Hill in the Cedar Falls area. Cedar Falls is a college town, as you probably know. A very good fair. There's one in Marion, Iowa, just north of Cedar Rapids. It's a very small but really a nice fair. They're very selective. There's only 50 artists. And it's very competitive, but if you can get in, boy, it's really a neat fair. Let me think. I just finished a show in Des Moines.
Two Rivers?
Two Rivers, which is indoors, a convention center, which is a very nice fair.
You do the Iowa, what used to be the Iowa artists at the Des Moines Art Center now on the river?
I don't, no. I have never been on the river. I guess the last one I did was when they had it at the fairgrounds. It's supposed to be number 10 in the nation on outdoor fairs.
Which one?
The one in Des Moines, it's called
The Two Rivers?
Expo?
no, the one it's June, isn't it? June.
On the
Yes.
bridges?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the
We went-
bridges.
Yeah, the one we went to?
Oh, yeah, yeah. What do they call that?
It used to be art.
I don't think, I'm not sure what they call it now, but they have a very high-powered promoter or a public relations person that's running it now. And,
Which isn't always good for the artist.
well,
Or local, maybe.
well, that's true. Now, unfortunately, it's so competitive now. It's a national show, and they have numerous out-of-state people. The one in Des Moines that I just attended, they had 150 exhibitors, and only 45 were from Iowa.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And so you can imagine how competitive it is, because they get many, many more applicants than they have spots for.
And it's juried.
It's juried, yes. In fact, they're all juried now. There are 2 fairs in West Des Moines. It's called Valley Junction. It's a little historic district, and there's one in the spring, about May 15, and the other one is in about the 15th of September. And that's a one-day fair. I like that. Have you been to it, Pat?
He's just looking at me.
You're tired of loading and
likes-
unloading the car.
He likes the one-day fairs too.
Sure. Well, have you been to the Valley Junction Fair?
I always keep that the invitation, the entry
Oh,
form, and I never have done it.
That would be the last one that I'd eliminate. I'll tell you why. Because they block the street off. You drive your vehicle right up to your booth. You unload. You park the vehicle, and it's short. It's only it's on Sunday. It's from 11 to 5, something like that.
Those-
So when the fair is over, you pull your car in, load up, and you're gone. It's great.
It is.
You won't need Pat, so you can do that yourself.
He says yes.
So let me think. Indian Hills has a nice little fair, indoors, and that's easy to do. That's kind of fun. There's luck involved. If your 4 or 5 buyers decide not to come, you don't sell anything. If it's outdoors and it rains, or the wind blows, the sun gets hot, well, it's not fun either. But I really like it because you deal directly with the people that are interested in your work. And an outdoor fair is such that people wander through without any shyness. You know, you have difficulty in getting people to come into a municipal gallery. They're rather shy about doing that, but they really want to talk to the artists. They're really interested in what artists do. And
So what shows, like one-man shows like this one, do you have or have you done in the recent years?
well, most of my activity now is entering in national watercolor competitions. And I enter about 40 of them every year. And this is the only incentive that I can find that keeps me painting, because I need things to send to these shows. Now, I enter 40, that doesn't mean I get in all of them. I may get in half of them, because they too are very competitive. About every state has a watercolor society in which they'll have an annual show, and they will invite people to submit paintings for jurying. It's sort of a labor of love, but for me, it's a way of creating an inventory of paintings.
Do you do your own photographs in each one that enters the slides?
No, I have a young man here in Fairfield that does them, and his name escapes me now. He's in the Yellow Pages.
Don Hauser?
No? He's over on Washington Street. He's in the Yellow Pages, I think. What is his name?
Rick Donhauser.
He's on
No? No? Well, anyway, I have done slides of my own, and with various degrees of success. But a professional photographer is my recommendation. They have the time and the equipment to do it. I always fear that when I turn in a roll of film that, ooh, I know I'm not going to get anything back, you know, blank film. But anyway, I do. And it's relatively inexpensive because you have to buy the film anyway. You have to have it processed. And if the photographer makes a mistake, why, they do it over.
Now, Wendell, I know you're pretty modest about your awards, but
No.
recently I heard that you won a top prize at a national watercolor show.
Yes, that's true. There's several prestigious watercolor societies in the U.S., one of which is the American Watercolor Society, based in New York City. The other one is the National Watercolor Society, based on the West Coast. Most watercolor painters would strive to earn signature memberships. That is, if you've been included, for example, in the American Watercolor Society 3 times within 10 years, then you are eligible to use the signature AWS after your name.
Which you've been using.
Which I do use, yeah. And I have signature memberships in many societies, but you know, if you wanted to use them all, it would seem rather excessive. So, and not a bit modest, I guess. But I like to use the AWS because I think most watercolor painters know about that society. It's over 130 years old. It's extremely difficult to get into. Most people give up after being rejected for year after year. I didn't give up. I just kept entering. And I finally achieved the signature membership. I won 2 awards in the 3 shows that I was in. One was the High Winds Medal, and the other one was the Windsor-Newton Medal, and one was $1,200 and one was $1,000, which is not the top prize. But the top prize, of course, is being in the show, because they get probably 2,000 or 3,000 entries every year, and they select 100 pieces. You get 100 pieces that are accepted. So it's probably the granddaddy and the most prestigious of all the society shows. Iowa has a watercolor society, as some of you know, and I think Susan is a signature member, aren't you?
No, I haven't done that much watercolor.
Yeah. Well, it's like physical fitness or playing a musical instrument. It has to be a daily activity. I'm always reminded of Yasha Heifetz. He said he practices every day, and if he doesn't practice every day, he said, I notice it. And he said, if I don't practice in 2 days, my wife notices it. If I don't practice in 3 days, my audience notices it. It's that crucial, you know, that you keep your hand in. And I try to tell young painters that sometimes come to me and ask about what I do and how I do it, and I always tell them, if you can do just a little bit every day, at least it eliminates the guilt feeling about not doing anything. And those of you that jog know this. If you don't jog every day, you get cranky, right? Any of you joggers?
Oh, no.
No?
A weightlifter here and
A
there.
weightlifter. But you see, there's things that give you momentum and it keeps you going. You see, it's like dieting. You can't just diet 1 or 2 days. You got to keep at it. Or physical fitness or anything. Anyway, more questions. We'll circulate around the room if you want.
Let's look at some of his watercolors.
Okay, where would you like to start, folks?
Right behind you.
Okay, this is a silkscreen print, and most of these, as I mentioned earlier, are done in workshops that I used to do many years ago. This is a depot in Cherokee, Iowa. And it's 2-color. It's brown and sort of gray. And for each color on a silkscreen print, you need a stencil. Each color is printed separately. Those of you that attended my workshops here in Fairfield many years ago remember possibly how this was done. It's a bit difficult to describe it in words. It's easy to show if I had a screen or something here. Anyway, all of the silk screens, these are the small ones, are all 2-color prints. And the advantage in prints, of course, is they're multiples. You print multiples. In fact, this one, well, that's an artist proof, but most of these are about 100 copies. So instead of having one painting, you do a little more work and you can have many copies.
I see these around Fairfield a lot. We have 2 in our home.
Sure.
And then the Art Association very luckily got a set of 5
Sure.
from a member who moved out of state. Did you do those? Did we do those as a fundraiser or anything?
The
Or
Art
did we sell them like right
Association-
in Fairfield?
The
or
Art
something?
Association commissioned Several.
One set, I believe, was done as a fundraiser, and those were studio prints. In other words, I didn't create them in a class session. I'm trying to remember some of the others. I think Christmas City, we did a scene of this square.
Right.
Now that was a classroom project.
In fact, I see a couple that just walked in a while ago, and I was at an auction a few weeks ago, and they bought the whole set.
Really?
We have about
Right.
5. We have about 5.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm gathering them for my daughters. I have
5
daughters, and I want
sets.
each of them to have
Yeah.
But they're in great demand.
Are they? Well, my wife several years ago, she likes to zing me, says, "Hey, I bought a couple of your prints up at Mount Pleasant." And it was, at an auction, you get a package. You get an ironing board, a couple prints, and something else. And she wanted the ironing board.
The same auction, I bought some of my own stuff.
Yeah, well, sure. You can buy your own things back pretty cheap.
Right.
I know.
In those days, you sold those to us for 3 1/4, and we sold them for 10.
Oh, yes.
And they were all to raise money for the sculpture in the park.
Is that you, Nan? Whoa! Good.
And the last one was for McElhenney.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that was a good series. And, yeah, we had fun with those. And certainly Fairfield's been very good to me as far as putting money in my pocket. The association has invited me up many times and to do work and to sell things. And you used to have a nice little art fair here. Maybe you still do.
We have once in a while a summer one, and then
Yeah.
we have a regular one at Christmas time, which is coming
Okay,
up
sure.
right away.
I-
Next week. Yes.
I got something in the mail today.
Yes, I probably mailed you an invitation to
Yes,
our
you
holiday
did.
art fair,
You
which
bet.
is Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, the paintings, folks, are done on good quality paper, and you'll see that they're all under glass to help protect them. They're done in a water-soluble paint, and most of, I'd say 99% of the areas of all of the paintings it's painted in transparent colors. That is, there's always some white paper glowing through the colors. And that's what makes watercolors look the way they look, say, as opposed to an oil painting, which is fairly opaque. So the transparency is what most watercolorists strive for.
So you rarely use white.
Rarely use white. The white, of course, is the paper. And not every painting has unpainted paper. There's none in this one. The well driller scene, the only piece of unpainted white paper, of course, is the image that looks like the sun or the moon or whatever.
And a little bit there on the water, but
Oh, a little bit on the water, yes. So most painters will start figuring out where they want their pure unpainted paper to show, and it doesn't have to be. It's not mandatory that you have white paper showing, but you get the complete range then if you have unpainted white paper, and all the way down to some of the darks down in that wharf area.
Now, you said you don't use photographs.
No.
Is this a particular place that you just remember?
I just contrived it, yes.
Oh,
I like
any particular place?
it could be, well, it's been rejected on the West Coast, and I can understand why now. You know?
you're imagining.
I didn't think of that, you know.
Well, when you start out, do
you want me to
have something in mind?
I do. I have a motif. I have a motif in mind, and as you'll see here in most of these paintings, they're sort of industrial related. And I don't, I've done so many landscapes, and one of the very famous painters in the country, someone asked him, well, what should we enter in competitions? Well, try to show something that the juror has not seen. He said, if you enter a red barn, it better be very good, because it probably won't get in.
You're known for your trains also.
Trains, yes, trains, and I've been sort of typed as the train artist.
Well, do you ever
And,
just start putting shapes on the paper and then see what happens?
I do, yes, I do. That's the fun part.
That's what I like to do.
And I might add that maybe 1 or 2 or 3 out of 10 is keepable.
That's what I have the problem.
I'm willing.
Not that many even.
No, I'm willing to throw a lot away, or I'm willing to start before I get too involved in it. If you get too involved in it, then you want to correct and make changes. Paper is so cheap. Throw it away and start over. Time is more important, you know, or your well-being, you know. If you get really frustrated if you try to save something. And I say to myself, it's mine too. You must say to yourself, today I'm going to do some painting, rather than today I'm going to do a painting. You know, that takes the pressure off.
Well, I think our camera is almost out of time, so we're going to
Okay.
close the camera portion,
All
but
right.
we want to keep visiting.
Sure.
But I
Okay.
just wanted to say, stop at Democratic Design and see the Fairfield Art Association exhibit by Wendell Mohr. You can tell by his talking, he's a wonderful artist, he's a wonderful teacher, and
I like to teach, yeah.
so we're going to go on and hear some more about
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Anyway,